The envelope arrived like a ghost from the past, thick and impersonal, stamped with the Hayes family crest that screamed old money without a hint of warmth. No handwritten note from Mom. No, we've missed you, sweetie. Just a cold invitation to Grandpa William's 95th birthday garden soiree in Burlington, Vermont. 2 days' notice. As if I were an afterthought. A distant relative they'd forgotten to cull from the list. I stood in my Portland kitchen, fingers tracing the embossed edges, while my husband, David, scrolled through work emails on his phone. He glanced up, sensing the shift in the air. You all right, Emma? I slid the card across the counter. He read it, brow furrowing. They waited this long to tell you? I nodded, bitterness rising like bile. Months of planning. And I'm the last to know. Like always. David set his phone down, his voice steady but laced with that quiet fury he reserved for my family's games. You don't have to go. But I did. Not for them, for him. The man who'd taught me to question everything, even when it hurt. The flight to Vermont was a blur of recycled air and unspoken regrets. David drove the rental car through winding roads lined with fiery maples, the kind that made you think nature was putting on a show just to distract from the rot underneath. I stared out the window, counting the miles like beads on a rosary, each one pulling me back to a house that had never felt like home. You're too quiet, David said, his hand finding mine. What's eating you? I squeezed back. But the word stuck. What if it's the same as last time? The whispers. The side eyes. He didn't sugarcoat it. Then we leave. Simple as that. But nothing with my family was ever simple. The Hayes estate loomed at the end of a gravel drive. Pristine white clapboard and manicured lawns hiding the cracks I'd learned to spot as a kid. We stepped inside, and the air hit me sterile, like fresh varnish over old wounds. No more of Grandpa's cluttered shelves or the faded armchair where he'd read me detective novels. Everything gleamed. Impersonal. Like a staged real estate photo. Guests milled about with champagne flutes and forced smiles. The hum of small talk buzzing like flies. A server thrust a glass into my hand. I set it down untouched. David scanned the room, his protective stance kicking in, the ex-cop in him never fully retired. I drifted to the welcome table, hoping for a scrap of familiarity. Instead, my place card read MS. Emily C. They'd botched my name. Or worse, hadn't bothered to get it right. I pocketed it. A small theft that felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Wandering the edges of the party. I paused at the door to Grandpa's old study. It was locked. But through the glass, I saw it had been gutted, turned into a home office with sleek monitors and filing cabinets. No trace of his leather-bound journals or the maps he'd pin up from our imagined adventures. A voice slithered behind me. Guests aren't supposed to wander. My sister, Rebecca, in a tailored sundress and heels that clicked like accusations. Just reminiscing, I said, forcing a smile. She didn't return it. The party's outside. Stick to the script. The garden was alive with lanterns and laughter. But it felt hollow. Like a play where everyone knew their lines except me. Cousins nodded politely but didn't engage. An aunt I'd never met asked if I was the caterer's assistant. Mom, Susan air-kissed my cheek, her perfume cloying. You look exhausted. Dear. City life's wearing you down. Her eyes flicked away before I could respond. I watched her glide through the crowd, charming strangers while ignoring the fracture in her own blood. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows, and I slipped toward the back fence, needing air that didn't taste like pretense. That's when I heard it, a murmur. Low and cutting. She wasn't even invited until the last minute. They figured she'd cause trouble. I spun. But no one was there. Just rustling leaves and the distant clink of glasses. David materialized beside me. His face unreadable. "Act natural," he whispered. Urgency threading his words. My pulse quickened. "What?" He nodded toward the pergola, where a wheelchair-bound man sat, surrounded by admirers. The man they called Grandpa. I waved subtly, expecting that familiar twinkle, the slow nod of recognition. His eyes slid past me, blank as a stranger's. No warmth. No memory. David's grip tightened on my arm. "That's not him." The words landed like a punch, but they resonated in my gut. The blinking too rhythmic, too precise. The posture rigid. Not the slouch from years of woodworking. Even the sweater plaid. When Grandpa despised patterns that tried too hard, my mind raced back, his hands always fidgeting. Calloused from tools, his laugh gravelly and genuine. This imposter had none of it. "We need to go," David said. But I couldn't. Not yet. The betrayal simmered, turning to a slow boil. They'd erased him and me from the narrative. I slipped back inside, heart pounding, feigning a need for my coat. Upstairs in the guest room, I rifled through drawers, fingers trembling. In the nightstand, buried under guest linens, was an envelope yellowed, addressed to me in Grandpa's shaky scrawl. Dated 3 years ago. My breath hitched as I tore it open. "Emma. Kiddo. If things go quiet. If they push you out. No, it's not you. It's greed wearing a family mask. Trust your gut, it's sharper than mine ever was." Tears blurred the ink, but the words ignited something fierce. This wasn't confusion, it was a warning. Downstairs, Susan caught me in the hall. "What's that?" I held up the letter. Her face paled, then hardened. He was rambling toward the end. "Don't make a scene." But I was done swallowing scenes. The room hushed as I raised my voice. He knew exactly what he was saying. "And so do you." David met me on the porch, reading the letter in silence. "This changes everything." We didn't flee, we lingered, watching the facade crack. A neighbor, Mrs. Ellis, pulled me aside. "I sent condolences in 2022. Your mom said it was a private affair." My blood ran cold. Grandpa dead? For years? The puzzle pieces slammed together, the unanswered calls, the he's resting excuses, the sudden remodels. Rebecca cornered me by the buffet. "Why dredge this up? It's his day." I met her gaze. "Because it's not him out there." The toast began, Rebecca raising her glass to family bonds unbreakable. The hypocrisy burned. I stepped forward, David's phone in hand. A saved voicemail from Grandpa playing loud. "Emma. They're circling like vultures. Protect what matters." Gasps rippled. Susan lunged for the phone, but David blocked her. The imposter shifted uneasily, his facade slipping. Police arrived, David's quiet call earlier paying off. They questioned, probed, and the truth unraveled like cheap yarn. The man in the chair? Harold Hayes, Grandpa's estranged half-brother. Hired to play the part for a cut of the estate. Forged wills. Hidden death certificates from 2022 pneumonia. Buried quietly to avoid probate scrutiny. Susan and Rebecca had orchestrated it all. Siphoning funds. Selling assets under the radar. "We were protecting the legacy," Susan hissed as cuffs clicked. Rebecca's eyes blazed with defiance. "You always wanted to be the hero." I didn't flinch. "No. I just wanted the truth." The estate transferred to me weeks later, no appeals. No mercy. I walked the halls alone, stripping away their gloss, restoring Grandpa's touches, the workbench, the journals. But the victory tasted bitter. Nights brought ghosts not of him, but of the silence I'd endured, the doubts they'd planted. I wrote unsent letters, poured out the rage. The grief. You stole years. But not his memory. Selling their gaudy editions funded a carpentry program in his name, quiet. Practical. Like him. The media frenzy came uninvited. Granddaughter exposes family fraud. Comments flooded, strangers sharing their own erasures. David held me through it. You paid the price. But you reclaimed everything. In the end, the house stood as testament, not to revenge, but to endurance. I found a carved wooden bird in his drawer. Inscribed, "For the one who flew free." The silence broke. But the scars lingered. A reminder that betrayals cost echoes long after the storm.